The air at my wedding smelled like frosting and perfume, sweet enough to choke on. The band had just switched to something soft when my mother leaned in, smiling for the cameras, and said, "We're giving the car his parents bought you to your sister." Her tone was light, rehearsed, like she was talking about rearranging napkins. Danielle, my sister, laughed beside her, sequins flashing. "Relax," she said. "It's just a car." The guest didn't notice, but my stomach did a cold, final drop. My groom didn't move. He simply looked at them, calm, unreadable. That look changed everything. People say weddings reveal who truly loves you. Mine revealed who never did. I grew up in a house where fairness was a bedtime story, never something lived in the kitchen. My mother, Grace, loved order, the kind that kept her looking perfect and me silent. My father, Richard, believed silence solved everything. And Danielle, the delicate one, was the world's favorite. When we were kids, she got the bigger room because she was afraid of the dark. When she crashed her first car, Mom blamed the rain. When I worked double shifts to buy mine, she called it good character building. Danielle was always the reason I became the resource. That pattern shaped me. Someone always giving, someone always explaining. By 29, I had built a life outside their script. I was an interior designer, careful, precise, the kind of woman who paid her own bills and didn't borrow dresses. Meeting Evan felt like stepping into sunlight that didn't burn. His family believed in boundaries, in respect. They weren't rich, but they were generous in ways that cost nothing. Listening, trusting, giving you space. At our rehearsal dinner, his father handed me a small silver key inside an envelope. "You built this life together," he said. "Here's something to help you move forward." It was a used car, clean, reliable, titled in my name. It wasn't about the metal. It was about what it meant. Trust, partnership, and protection. That night, I caught my mother's expression, tight, polite, already calculating. She smiled at Evan's parents and said how thoughtful, but her eyes flicked to Danielle like a reflex. I should have known then. It was an early warning. The morning of the wedding, she fussed over my hair and told me how proud she was. "You've always been so giving, Eva," she said, smoothing my veil. "Don't lose that." Her perfume filled the air, sweet, heavy, impossible to breathe through. I smiled back, pretending not to understand the message behind her words. But part of me already knew. Some gifts aren't meant to be shared. The reception felt like a movie playing too loud. Laughter, clinking glasses, 1,000 polite smiles, all acting in the same scene. Evan's hand rested on my back as we swayed through our first dance. For a brief moment, it almost felt safe, like the world had agreed to behave. Then I saw my mother cutting through the crowd, her pageant smile locked in place. She stopped beside us, perfume trailing behind her, and spoke just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "We're passing the car his parents gave you over to your sister." Every sound blurred. Someone laughed in the distance. The band singer drew out a note that suddenly felt like sirens. Danielle appeared under the fairy lights, sequins scattering reflections across her grin. "Relax," she said. "It's just a car." It was never about the car. It was about everything that had ever been taken and disguised as kindness. I looked at my mother's face, calm, composed, convinced she was right. She tilted her head, waiting for me to perform gratitude. "You and Evan can manage with one," she added. "You've always been practical." A guest snapped a photo, her hand on my arm, her smile wide. No one would see how tightly her fingers dug into my skin. I said nothing. Evan's thumb brushed my wrist. A quiet question, "Are you okay?" I breathed in frosting, glass, and the old taste of obedience. My father drifted over, drawn by the tension. "What's going on?" he asked. "Nothing serious," Mom answered quickly. "Just helping Danielle out. She's had awful luck with cars." Danielle giggled softly. "It's fine, Mom. She doesn't mind sharing." Sharing. The word landed like a bruise. I thought about every night I stayed up fixing Danielle's resume, the dress she borrowed and never returned, the endless apologies I made on her behalf, all the small surrenders dressed as love. I smiled, small, calm, dangerous. "You're right," I said. I don't mind sharing. My mother relaxed, mistaking surrender for peace. Evan didn't. His hand tightened around mine. Across the room, fairy lights flickered. Cameras flashed. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. I leaned closer to Evan and whispered, "It's starting again." He met my eyes, not surprised, just ready, and in that silence, I realized something simple. They didn't come to celebrate me. They came to test how much of me was still theirs. When the cake was cut and the music softened, the room began to dissolve into laughter and wine. I smiled through photographs, accepted congratulations that tasted like dust, and counted the minutes until I could finally breathe again. When the last guest drifted toward the parking lot, Evan and I slipped through a side door into a quiet hallway. He leaned against the wall, loosening his collar. "Do you want me to say something to them?" "No," I said. My voice didn't shake. "We already did." He frowned for a moment, then his eyes softened. He understood. Months earlier, over cartons of takeout, we had half-joked about this very thing. My mother's habit of turning my belongings into family property wasn't new. It was inherited behavior, passed down like a tradition. I had decided long ago that I would no longer be inheritable. 2 weeks before the wedding, a co-worker of mine, a paralegal, helped me draft a notarized declaration. Every gift received in my name would be legally protected, never to be transferred or sold without my written consent. I signed it in blue ink. Evan signed beside me. "You're not being paranoid," she said as she stamped it. "You're being prepared." Now, standing in that dim hallway, Evan reached for my hand. "You knew this might happen." "I hoped it wouldn't," I replied, "but I wasn't going to bleed again without a bandage." We stood in silence, listening to the muffled laughter from the banquet hall, distant, hollow, already fading. I thought about the look on my mother's face earlier, the delight of control disguised as generosity. She had spent years training me to play the role of the gracious daughter. I had learned it so well that no one noticed the quiet calculations behind my smile. Evan's phone buzzed. A text from one of the guests. "Your sister's already posting about the car." He turned the screen toward me. There was a photo of Danielle in our garage, posing beside the car with a caption, "Finally got a ride that fits me." A dry laugh escaped me. She couldn't even wait until morning. Evan met my eyes. "So what we do now?" I reached into my clutch, fingers brushing against the thick envelope inside. "Now," I said, "we let them open their own trap." He exhaled slowly, pride flickering in his eyes. "Then let's go finish the party." We fixed our smiles, straightened our clothes, and walked back toward the sound of music. My heart was steady now. The storm had already changed direction. The band had moved on to another soft, romantic tune, something harmless, meant to fill silence. The room glowed gold again, but the air had changed. Conversation sounded thinner, the laughter slightly forced. I caught sight of my mother and sister at a distant table, heads close together, their smiles rehearsed. For years I'd mistaken those smiles for warmth. Now I knew better. Evan's hand brushed mine again, steady and grounding. We walked past the tables, greeting guests who saw only two newlyweds glowing under the lights. No one noticed a quiet shift, the end of something that had ruled me my whole life. The celebration continued, but inside, I felt something deeper. Freedom. Quiet, powerful, irreversible. The night that began with frosting and perfume had ended in truth. And this time, the gift was mine to keep. Eyes darted away and back. My mother stood near the cake table, laughing too loudly, like a queen finally restored to her stage. Danielle hovered beside her, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. When she saw us returning, Mom's expression brightened. "There they are," she called, her voice ringing through the room. "Everyone's asking where the bride went." I smiled politely, handling a few final details. She didn't hear the weight in that sentence, or maybe she did and thought she could still outplay me. "Good," she said with that tight, glossy smile. "We're wrapping up soon. Danielle needs a ride home anyway." Evan stepped forward slightly, his tone light but sharp as a scalpel. "She has one now, doesn't she?" Mom blinked. "What?" "The car," he said. I heard you mention she's taking it. Danielle tensed, eyes flicking between us. Oh, come on, Eva, she started. Don't make this weird. It's just a car. You finished for her? I interrupted quietly, my voice calm but cold. Dad wandered closer. Try and play the peacemaker. Can we not do this here? I turned to him, composed. Here's the thing, Dad. This is where she did it. Publicly. The band faltered, then kept playing, unsure. A few guests turned their heads. The scent of champagne turned sharp. Mom's smile stiffened. Eva, sweetheart, you're overreacting. It was a misunderstanding. We meant. Evan held out an envelope, cutting her off. You might want to read this before you finish that sentence. Her hand hesitated before taking it. She glanced at Danielle, then at me, before unfolding the paper. The rustle of the document was loud enough to cut through the music. Danielle leaned in to read over her shoulder. At first came confusion, then realization, followed by color draining from both their faces. Mom let out a short, brittle laugh. What is this? A notarized declaration? Executed 2 weeks ago. I said evenly. It states that all wedding gifts titled in my name cannot be sold, gifted, or transferred without my written consent. Any attempt triggers a legal review and forfeits any future inheritance from Evan's side. The last words dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. The room froze. Someone whispered, "Oh, wow." Danielle gave a nervous, panicked laugh. You can't be serious. I met her eyes without flinching. Dad exhaled through his nose. This is petty, Eva. No, I said softly. Petty as pretending theft is a family tradition. Mom's voice sharpened. We're family. You don't treat us like criminals. You went into our garage last night. I replied. You took photos of the car and posted them. Danielle's face froze. That was a joke, symbolic. Evan's voice was calm but deadly. Symbolic of what exactly? Her lips parted. No answer. I turned back to my mother. This isn't about the car. It's about the pattern. You call it love when you take what's mine and tell me I'm good for giving it. You're being dramatic, she snapped. Maybe, I said. But this time, the drama has witnesses. A ripple moved through the guests. Phones half raised, half hidden. Someone's Aunt Mal drama behind a champagne flute. Danielle's voice cracked. You'd really embarrass the family like this? I'm not embarrassing anyone, I said. I'm just ending the script. Evan's hand found mine, steady and grounding. Mrs. Harper, he said evenly, you should keep that paper. It's legal documentation. Mom stared at him, her composure splintering. You encourage this. No, he said softly. She didn't need encouragement, just respect. Danielle's cheeks flushed crimson. You married up, didn't you? Think you're better than us now. Evan didn't answer. I did. No, I didn't marry up. I married differently, boundaried. The word hung there like a foreign language in that house. Mom's voice trembled. We raised you to be kind. You raised me to give, I said, and you taught her to take. That was the fracture, the one sentence that split the air in half. The band stopped playing altogether. Even the fairy lights seemed to flicker. Danielle stepped closer, trembling. You'll regret this. I smiled faintly. I already did, for 29 years. For the first time, Mom's perfect composure cracked. Her voice wavered. Eva, please don't do this in front of everyone. Then you shouldn't have done it to me in front of everyone, I replied. She opened her mouth again, but no words came. The silence that followed was thick enough to touch. Evan turned to band. Play something, he said quietly. The drummer hesitated, then lifted his sticks. The singer looked at me for permission. I nodded. Music rose again, soft, defiant, like a heartbeat restarting. Evan led me back to the dance floor. The guests parted, unsure if they were watching royalty or a bomb about to go off. As we moved, I caught our reflections in the mirrors, my mother pale and still, Danielle's mascara smudged, my father staring at the floor. The envelope sat between empty glasses on the table, the paper like a ghost of old power now gone. Evan whispered, Breathe. I said, and for once it was true. When the song ended, I turned toward my parents, still frozen near the cake. Help isn't theft, I said evenly, and love isn't access. I placed my empty champagne flute beside the envelope and walked away with Evan through a sea of quiet stares. Behind us, no applause came, just whispers, like wind through a cracked door. Outside, under the string lights, I exhaled everything I'd been holding for years. You okay? Evan asked softly. I nodded. I think I just stopped apologizing. He smiled. About time. We stepped into the night, the music still humming behind the doors. Somewhere inside, the smile my mother had worn all my life finally fell. The drive home was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. City lights blurred past, soft and far away. I rolled the window down, letting the wind pull at my veil until it came loose and drifted into the night. Evan laughed under his breath. You just threw away your movie moment. Good, I said. I don't want one. We drove in silence after that, hand in hand, the same car they'd tried to steal humming beneath us. Every mile felt like distance from an old wound. When we reached home, Evan turned off the engine but didn't move. You did it, he said quietly. I did, I replied. I broke the pattern. Inside, the kitchen still smelled like the morning coffee we never finished. I slipped off my shoes, the cool tile grounding me. On the counter, my phone buzzed with missed calls, Mom, Danielle, and unknown numbers. I turned it face down. Outside, crickets filled the air for the first time. The silence didn't ache. It settled. Evan wrapped his arms around me from behind. Still want that honeymoon drive? Let's take the car, I said. A week later, sunlight spilled across the same kitchen floor. The same house. The same car in the driveway. But everything inside me felt rewired. On the fridge, one photo remained, the moment at the wedding when my mother's smile cracked and I held the envelope. I used to think it looked harsh. Now it looked honest. Freedom, I realized, doesn't roar. It whispers. It sounds like a phone that doesn't ring anymore. Like doors you can lock without guilt. People say families fall apart because of pride or money. Maybe. But sometimes they fall apart because one person finally stops pretending. I looked at that photo and whispered, boundaries don't destroy families, they define them. And if you've ever had to draw a line with someone who called it love, you're not alone, and you don't owe anyone your peace.